I am Brian.
I am Julius.
This is the Ascendant Project. The mission of the Ascendant Project is to explore the political positions in individuals. A contributor writes a 750-word article and then gets interviewed.
The purpose of the interview is to bring out other views and hopefully life experiences that sent the author down the path to the position expressed.
Although some debate will undoubtedly occur, this is not intended to be a forum for debate, but rather a project to better explore the individual and the American experience as a whole.
All opinions and views expressed, written or verbal, are solely the ownership of the one who expressed them. The Ascendant Project does not hold or endorse any views or opinions.
On Racism, A Limited History and Personal Prevention by Brian Smyers. Racism. It is always there. You like to think it is not, but it is. It is a snake in the woods, the alligator in the swamp, the tick near your campsite, the elephant in the room. We at the Ascendant Project have talked around this issue. We alluded to it. We referenced Black Lives Matter. I've mentioned stories my coworkers told me about episodes of racism they have suffered. However, we have not addressed it directly. We haven't made an episode of it, and there are reasons for that. First, Julius and I are just two white boys bitchin'. Our viewpoint is from the racial class that has historically oppressed others. As a result, our views are incomplete. Our bias is found in that we may learn the facts, but we will never truly feel the pain. We will never feel the pain that is passed from generation to generation. This is because we won the genetic lottery. We run the risk of being Latte Liberals, as Al Sharpton would say. Out of touch, with a splash of all talk and no action. Second, the Ascendant Project wants conservatives to contribute. This means they need to write and read essays, sign their full name to it, and be willing to be interviewed for an hour about life experiences and everything that leads them to their position. To do that in a political environment already is a risk, and could be even more so in the future. The reason why the Ascendant Project, Braver Angels, and other political organizations that try to bridge the gap have found is that conservatives actually expect to be called a racist at some point. But here we are. There is an issue that is an undercurrent in today's political environment that people do not want to talk about. Well, I demand courage from contributors. Perhaps I should demand courage of myself to talk about this issue. So what is racism? Is it prejudice? Is it systematic? Is it based on the color of your skin? Is it some of that or all of that? What is the difference between race and ethnicity? Are Jews a race or a religion? We survived as a species from our days as rodents by not trusting what was unfamiliar. If something didn't seem right, we avoided it. This has been part of our instinct and our intuition since before Homo sapiens came on to the scene. This is evolution. And as a result, racism is natural. But like a bite from a poisonous snake, natural does not always mean it is good for you. However, humanity has grown past our biological evolution and created civilization. We are no longer fighting over the local watering hole while looking over our shoulders for lions. With sentient thought, the call to be a better person becomes the foundation for a better society. Still, I am reminded of the argument between Angel and Spike from the TV series Angel. If a fight broke out between an astronaut and a caveman, who would win? Racism has been prevalent in America since its founding. From the slaughtering of Native Americans to the importations of slaves in the early 1600s, man has subjugated man on the basis of race. The Declaration of Independence refers to Native Americans as savages, and Africans were viewed as inferior by many of those in power since the dawn of colonialism. Slaves were considered 3/5 of a person in the Constitution. When the Bill of Rights was ratified, every state was a slave state. The first free state was Vermont, and it had banned slavery before joining the Union as the 14th state. Slaves built many of our government buildings, including the White House and the Capitol. Today, many golf courses and college campuses are built on plantations where people were held in chains, whipped, beaten, and killed, sometimes en masse, for disobeying their masters. People were sold to other slave owners, separating families in the name of plantation owner dime or as a means of control. Native Americans suffered repeated ethnic cleansing from the U.S. Army. The Trail of Tears comes to mind. It didn't matter if they won in court. Andrew Jackson and other presidents would refuse to enforce the judgments. Treaties were consistently broken once gold or other precious resources were found on lands granted to them. It should also be noted that throughout the 1800s, immigrants from the Catholic countries were looked down upon. Irish, Italians, and Germans, amongst other countries, all suffered discrimination when they came to the States. Most of the history of Western civilization up until World War II was Protestant countries versus Catholic countries. This attitude of Europe was exported into America. Other races, like Chinese Americans, suffered similar fates. Once slavery was banished after the Civil War, Jim Crow settled in. The South would vote solidly Democrat because the pain of the Civil War would cause many Southerners not to vote for Republican for over 100 years, solely because it was the party of Lincoln. As a result, progressive Democrats in the North would come into power with this alliance with the South. FDR was a fruit of this powerful alliance. Dixiecrats would not really be for all the social programs, but they were fine with it enough to pass legislation so long as they didn't pass anything that ended segregation or pass a civil rights bill. Once the civil rights movement started gaining strength and popularity in the 1950s and 60s, Republicans saw their chance. They developed the Southern strategy, and Nixon and Goldwater would become household names as they preyed upon the hatred of Southern racism during their campaigns. With the Civil Rights Act that was passed under Johnson, the alliance of the Northern progressives and the Dixiecrats was broken. By the election of 1976, Dixiecrats would start the process of becoming Reagan Democrats, propelling Ronald Reagan into the presidency in 1980. With the Republican Revolution of 1994, the conversion of the South would be complete as the generational pain of Sherman's March to the Sea would give way to the contract with America. The South has remained Republican ever since. This is not to say that racism is a Southern problem. It is a problem everywhere. Eventually, some of these groups will be viewed as American. With the election of JFK, religion as ethnicity didn't matter as much as it did previously. But the concept of race still does. Many African Americans to this day feel their lives do not matter as much as white people in the eyes of law enforcement and government policy. Hence the name of the movement, Black Lives Matter. The name is meant as a reminder to those in power and to encourage African Americans when they look in the mirror. Today, the most evident form of racism is directed at Hispanic populations. It should be noted that most Hispanic immigrants do come from predominantly Catholic countries south of Texas, so there perhaps is an undercurrent of anti-Catholic sentiment as a component. Every time President Trump brings up immigration enforcement, he talks about how they are sending us people from jails and mental institutions. But most people being picked up by ICE are people who go to work every day and haven't broken a law since crossing the border. They then are deported to third countries, including a prison in Sudan where rape and torture is common. During the 2024 campaign, The president mentioned how immigrants eat dogs. The political rhetoric of immigrants taking American jobs is prevalent. The current administration is making it harder to give immigrants due process in the courts, despite the Fifth Amendment stating no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. The Fifth Amendment does not use the word citizen. History is often viewed through a lens of triumphant progression. MLK taught us to love each other. The first black Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, was appointed to the bench in 1967. Jesse Jackson was the first African American to win delegates in his 1984 presidential campaign. Employers and colleges started using DEI and quotas as tools to abolish the systematic racism of the past. And with the election of Barack Obama in 2008, racism was declared dead by many. But you can't kill racism. As mentioned at the start of this article, is an evolutionary impulse. You have to decide to kill it in yourself and help those around you fight it in their lives. Yes, sometimes that means calling them out. Primarily, though, you need to look within. You have to learn to recognize those negative impulses and not always listen to your own first reactions. Racism is a creeper, like a snake in the grass that thrives in the fields of homogeny. When one lives and works in areas that have little diversity, it is easy for those evolutionary impulses to creep into your civilized brain. Scapegoating becomes easier when minorities are not around to defend themselves, or more importantly, express that they have lost respect for you. When people get scared, it is easier to fall back into those evolutionary impulses. After 9/11, Muslim mosques and Sikh temples were attacked in America. Being scared is an emotion. Courage is a decision. The first way to fight racism in yourself is by embracing the concept of personal responsibility. Make a habit of not blaming others for one's own hardships. It is also important to make a habit of experiencing new things. Travel to a different continent, experience a different culture, fall in love with the fact that your ways are not the only ways. Learn to appreciate things that you do not have the luxury to experience previously. As Walt Whitman stated, be curious, not judgmental. Another way is to fight homogeny. Homogeny is basically segregation by the free market. It is found in our neighborhoods, our churches, our schools, and many occupations have a pretty homogeneous demographic makeup. Racism thrives in these environments because it is so easy for one's guard to fail. It is important to have a diverse group of friends and mentors throughout your life. As for me, I do have one African American mentor who is a colleague. Also in my profession, there are a couple of other people of color who I talk to on a regular basis. But for the most part, yes, most of my friends are white, but I long for a more diverse life experience. Finally, learn to empathize with those which you do not have common life experience. Embracing and understanding your own ignorance is the first step in being curious. Develop an empathetic worldview. If you are looking to understand people, you will be slower to judge them. Make your starting point. They are people like me. One of my personal heroes is Daryl Davis. He is an African American musician who has collected over 200 KKK robes. He has done this by befriending them. Through love, he brought people out of hate. He helped racists become better people. We need to follow his example and love all of humanity. For those listening who call themselves Christians out there, remember John 3:16. If God loved the world so much that he gave his only son, it is your calling to follow his example. Love one another. And love isn't just a feeling. Like courage, it is also a decision. I wish I could bring this article to an easy conclusion. This article is already 1,300 words over the target of 750. So concepts of what is race, race relations, racial reconciliation, generational wealth, privilege, what is DEI, how racism has passed down the generations, and other topics will have to be addressed elsewhere. This article did not go into the history of lynchings, race riots like Tulsa, Rodney King, or the riots when Martin Luther King was assassinated. It may be easier to talk about racism in other parts of the world, make it less personal. I could see essays on the Rwandan genocide and the question of, is the Israeli-Palestinian relationship apartheid? Perhaps these will be done in future essays and interviews. But perhaps that is chickening out of a hard conversation. But really, what do I really know about racism? Not much. I may learn the history. I may do the research. I may listen to my friends and my colleagues of color, but I will never feel the pain. In the end, I'm just a white boy bitchin'. And this podcast is in desperate need of more contributors.
All right, Brian. So here we are for take 2.
Yes.
You know what I think is really funny about what just happened?
What's that?
So we had started out the recording with me talking about how I felt like I was out of practice, but apparently the
I'm out of practice.
The feeling was mutual.
Yeah.
So Brian was only recording me and not himself, but
yeah, I was
here
still
we are
picked
for
up on
take
your
2.
microphone some, but it sounded horrible. So, all right, let's try
As
this
we
again.
talk about addressing elephants in the room, we'll just clear the air with that. Right. So again, I will say, thank you for being brave enough to write this article, with no sarcasm whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But again, thanks for making me interview you for writing this article with nothing but sarcasm.
Well, we only got 8 minutes in, so you know.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we start again, as we often do, with a summary. Why don't you summarize? I know this is a long one.
Yeah, this is way, way, way long article.
Yeah.
Normal articles are about 750 words or so.
This is the longest one we've done.
This one's around 2,100 at least, you know. So this article is like 3 times as long as we normally want it to be. We usually want I don't know, maybe a 3 or 4 minute read.
Yeah.
I
think this was
it's around 11 or so, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it could easily have been
might have been longer.
2, 3, 4 times as longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot I don't think you got to at all.
Yeah. And it was hard to read something that long too aloud because, you know, I'm always trying to keep my chest full of air when I'm reading something like this on air. Whereas
Make yourself
conversation, yeah, like in Ted Lasso.
Right.
But you know, it isn't like a conversation like this where I can somewhat breathe normally. So, but anyway, the summarization of the article, basically it starts off beating around the bush a little bit, because that's kind of the nature of racism these days. Nobody really wants to talk about it. So I decided to use that to my advantage. And it makes admission straight off the top. You know, you and I are 2 white boys bitching in the end. We are of the class that has historically instituted racism on other people. Mm-hmm. So, like life and growing up, you don't necessarily remember the punches you throw so much as the punches you've taken. You don't necessarily remember how you've hurt others and insulted them, but you always remember how they've insulted you and hurt you.
Yep.
So you and I can only go so far. We aren't necessarily qualified to really talk about it. I remember my dad complaining back in the day about how when there was a story that involved racism on News 4, they always made Jim Vance, who was an African-American reporter, report on it. And he thought that was pretty racist in the end. But really, though, if you're trying to put a face to racism, you kind of need somebody of the race who's being discriminated against reporting on it. It makes things a little bit more legit, in my opinion. So
fair enough.
I disagree with my dad on that.
Did you?
Yeah.
What was the disagreement?
Well, I mean, kind of over that. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I don't think at that time I had the courage to say that I disagreed on that. I just kind of took it in at that point. But I mean, I was in high school when he made that comment, so yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah,
I hadn't found my strength yet.
Yeah,
but
you're in your late 20s now.
So times but 2 1/4. Right. Yeah, I'm 51.
So are there like particular topics that you feel like you had to cut because it was so long, cut for time? Or aspects you wish you would have you could have gone into further?
Not really. I mean, I feel like that racism could easily be a 500 level college course with a whole subtopic on every single day of class. There are, in
fact.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But I mean, the article, after it went hem and haw talking about how you and I really aren't qualified to talk about it, it went through a history of racism in America, and how things evolved and how it affected our political landscape. And then finally came to how do we fight racism?
Yeah.
And you can't change the world without first changing the world inside of you. So, you got to hold yourself accountable. You have to have friends to hold yourself they'll help you be accountable and call it out. It shouldn't be tolerated. And, it's once you change the world within you, then you can start making a difference in other people's lives a little bit better. So, so it goes into that, and teaches you to be more aware of homogeny.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what motivated you? What was your inspiration for this?
So the inspiration for this wound up being that we had talked about racism a while, on the edges. Like it came up in some of the interviews.
At least incidentally.
Yeah, incidentally. I've told a few stories about for about my coworkers or whatnot, in previous episodes, interviews. I think I might have brought it up also in like early on when talking about Black Lives Matter.
It did come up, I think, in our maybe not our very first, because I remember when we started, you remember we had that singular 20-minute interview.
Yeah.
And
the one microphone.
Right. And we thought it was kind of not fantastic. So we took a break for 10 minutes and then we started talking.
Yeah. And then, because that wound up kind of being a double episode recording.
Right.
Because I wound up using that first 10 minutes, I think, for like the first. No, I toggled it. The second 10 minutes I think I used for the second take I think I used like for the first episode, and the rest of that we'd use as.
Yeah. But I think I was the first person to bring up racism, actually.
Maybe.
In that second first.
Yeah.
One part 2, I don't know.
Yeah. We'd have to go back and check.
Yeah.
Can we say check the tape anymore?
Yeah. Go to the tape.
Or just check the podcast, because everything's digital now. I don't know if the lingo's changed or not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Check the recording.
The videotape. Yeah. You still say videotape even though it's on our cell phone.
Right.
There's no videotape anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of how the article went. And as for the motivations, I mean, we had addressed it a little bit, but eventually, you came to me as like, the Ascendant Project really needs to address this.
Yeah.
As an article.
Yeah.
Especially I think everything that's been going on in the news, with immigration and all that. And so I decided that I would take the hit because, this is my podcast in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like this is a very controversial topic. So if if anybody says something that's wrong or takes a misstep, it should come on me. So I went ahead and I wrote the article. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much there.
Definitely.
I mean, this thing is, what, 8 pages, 7 pages or
7
so?
pages, I think. Yeah.
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 And I didn't even scratch the surface.
Not really.
No. I mean, I really didn't.
Right.
So
maybe clawed at it a little bit, but
yeah.
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 It's like, you have a stick of butter and you want to spread it over your toast. So you shave it off the top.
Mm.
You get that little bit, but there's so much butter that remains. Yeah. That's kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think I do recall that conversation we had, and talking about empathy and bravery.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, being brave enough to have the conversation.
Yeah.
So why don't we, my first question.
10 minutes in.
10 minutes in. My first question, talking about, you've given us 7 pages of your view. And of course it's easy enough to kind of think out loud when no one is, and I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just saying, like, to be able to have this conversation, you have to have an honest partner who's going to maybe entertain some ideas or thoughts that wouldn't be allowed in most public spaces, right?
I don't want this podcast going viral for the wrong reasons, Julius.
Well, well, hopefully, so that is my first question. How do we, not you and me specifically, but like we, the royal we, have this conversation? How?
It's kind of a paradox in my opinion.
Mm.
Because the world is becoming so segregated, so homogenized.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to have the conversation because so many professions and the time which we worship or whatever are so segregated, and people's lives are so segregated by the free market, mind you. I mean, there aren't any laws for segregation anymore that I'm aware of, but it's without having diversity around you, the only people who you're going to have conversations with about racism are people in your class. And so it's going to be very easy to scapegoat, and it's going to be very easy for racism to thrive. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, corporations did this tried to have this conversation and try to help end it systemically, get rid of the good old boy system that help lead to an economic racist
what specific
society.
Things are you thinking of when you say that?
What, like with DEI, just trying to bring diversity into the workplace. Mm. And it's not like corporations were going under because they hired diverse people.
Right.
I mean, Bezos is doing fine with a diverse workforce. It's not like a financial place is going under because they hired an African American or a Hispanic person or a Chinese person.
Right.
Diversity of thought comes with diversity. And if you have more options in front of you, if there are things that you haven't thought about that another culture might give you that could help make your company more successful, how is that a bad thing? It is, but too many places, they see somebody who's hired who's a minority and they're like, oh yeah, that's a DEI hire, without having sat in on their interview, without having read their resume,
right,
without knowing their qualifications. Yeah, that person's a DEI hire. That's prejudice, dude. That's just straight up prejudice because you don't have the information of why they were hired. You're just making the assumption.
Well, so much of it to me feels like a straw man argument, right? Where to say, like, I'm going to contrive this hypothetical whereby, I might ask you, and this is going to happen a lot in this interview,
mm-hmm.
where I'll pose to you questions or hypotheticals that have happened to me a lot. I hear the question so often where They say, would you hire a less qualified candidate just because they're a minority? Which, you know, for me personally, I feel like the answer is if they meet the qualifications of the position, I kind of don't care.
Yeah, I mean, most
It's
positions like have an
it's not a thing I
educational.
think about, right?
Yeah, most positions have an educational requirement.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need a master's degree for this position. They're not going to say, okay, you only have 4 years or you have a high school diploma. You're eligible because you're black. That's not going to happen. They still have to have the qualifications to get in the door for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, the way I phrased that question to you just now is really kind of not exactly how it's usually phrased to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's usually like, don't you want the highest, the most qualified candidate, and regardless of what their race is. And again, my answer is still kind of the same. It's like, I mean, if they meet the qualifications, I'm willing to give them a chance.
Yeah.
Regardless, I don't need them to have a PhD to perform entry level development work or whatever. Yeah. That's I feel like there's so much nuance that's kind of lost in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are these things you've ever heard or experienced or seen people argue?
What that? Say that again.
That that don't you want the most qualified candidate?
Yeah, I mean that usually comes up when I'm talking to somebody about DEI, and
Right.
And so I kind of return my previous argument, like, what makes you think they're not qualified?
Right.
I mean, it's so much of getting a job is networking anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always the propensity for, a good old boy network to form. Because, oh, this person, oh, I'm going to give them an in because I like them. So it's kind of like, the whole credit rating thing happened basically to prevent discrimination in people getting mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a good credit rating, you can get the mortgage. But so that way it's not done on race as much. It still is, I think. I think credit ratings have been affected by race. I think there's been studies on that. But in fact, I think one recently came out today to where somebody in Baltimore who has like the same record as somebody who was born in like Montgomery County, like around Rockville, with the same record, the one in Rockville has a higher credit rating. I think I saw that on like Washington Post, like I think last week. But I mean, that's not a perfect system, but it was still trying to make it a little bit.
I mean,
it was still an attempt at leveling the playing field.
It's an attempt, and I think it's a worthwhile effort, but
yeah,
so often some of these kinds of systems become racism by proxy.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always a danger, like with credit rating and things like that. Of like China has a life score or something like that.
Yeah. Social
yeah,
credit.
social credit. Yeah. There's always a danger of that.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, you've seen that creep into America too, because like if you have a really bad credit rating, they do your potential employer does a background check on you. They might not hire you because, hey, they might not view you trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it becomes a kind of excuse.
Yeah.
In some instances, for people to say, "I don't trust you,"
right,
because of your credit score,
right,
and not for other reasons. Yeah. I don't know if you really gave me a good answer, though. You did mention in your article about I'm terrible with names. What's his name? Who got the 200 robes?
Oh, Daryl Davis.
Daryl Davis.
Yeah, that was right at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So I posed the question: how do we How do we have the conversation? How did he have this conversation?
Okay, so if I remember his story right, so he's a musician, and he was playing at a bar, and there are some KKK members there, but the guy really liked his music,
Yeah.
and so they started talking. So I forget who actually initially crossed over and initiated the conversation, but the KKK guy admitted, he's racist. That he, of course, I don't think he necessarily used the term "I'm a racist" because that's pretty rare for a racist to say that. Have the cognitive,
Connection.
self-awareness, to say, yeah, my view is racist. But he did tell him that he thought that they were inferior, African Americans were inferior or whatnot. But Daryl Davis didn't turn away, and he didn't necessarily get angry. He just kept coming back and playing, and more conversations kept happening, and a respect was built, and eventually that respect got deep enough to where the guy left the KKK. And as a thank you for making him a better person, he gave him his robes. And so that inspired Daryl Davis, if I remember the story right, to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And he's received over 200 KKK robes. It's really an amazing story.
No, absolutely. Because I can't imagine, like, just doing it once seems like a feat.
Yeah.
But doing it 200 times, that's a gift.
It is. But it shouldn't be we shouldn't be waiting for somebody on the other side to cross the line. We should always be challenging ourselves.
Right. Well, and this kind of brings up an interesting question though. Because, you say it twice in your essay that we're two white boys bitching.
Yeah, we are.
Which we are. Do you feel like the topic of racism or conversations around racism come up more frequently or more openly in Black communities, African American communities, other ethnic communities?
I don't know.
Is it just a kind of open secret among white people?
I really can't. I would have to ask, those minorities that are in my life that question. I really do not know.
Yeah. I feel like it must, right? I mean,
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
In the end, I mean, I do see. I don't necessarily want to even call it a conversation, but because what you see on TV, you can't react to. You can't have a conversation with the talking heads on TV.
Right.
So it's not really a conversation between the viewer and the television.
Right.
Because the television, is not going to interact with you.
No.
But
yours doesn't?
I know, seriously. I thought it was a smart TV, but it's just as dumb as the others. It's just as dumb as the hand crank.
Right.
And the rabbit
Turn
ears.
the dial.
Turn the dial and rabbit ears, yeah.
Go climb up on the roof.
The corded remote control.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to play video games. Can I put on channel 3?
Can I put on channel 3? Slide the slider. I once got shocked by that slider while playing Atari. But anyway, but with the TV, I feel like there's a lot of statements that are coming out through media. And there's definitely a societal conversation going on if you flip the channels, between MSNBC and, Fox and, One American News or whatever, OAN or CNN or whatever, because there are definitely different views on it. And you have, a president saying that who said in the latest campaign that, immigrants are eating the dogs,
Right.
And people are saying like, yeah, that's not racist. I'm like, how the fuck is that not racist? They're opening the jails and sending them to us. They're opening the mental institutions and sending them to us.
They're poisoning the blood.
They're poisoning the blood. That's
which
another
is
one.
a direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. 100%. So, I know we are a podcast that is political, but we try to write timeless things.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the elephant in the room. Like I started off, we don't want to admit it's there, but it's so gigantic. It is. And although I kind of wanted this topic to be brought up when we had a more diverse list of contributors. In the end, I feel that it still had to be addressed now, despite, emphasis on timeless stuff. And it's horrible. I mean, Trump says those things, but who are we sending back?
Mm-hmm.
We're sending back people who are going to jobs, paying the Social Security, even though they'll never receive it. They are sending back green card holders whose statuses are revoked, and when they go to appeal the ruling, they're getting picked up at the courthouse. They're trying to follow the process. So,
right.
For all their arguments, you want people to follow the process. No, you don't, because you're railroading the process so you can send them back. It's just like you're sending back people who are working. So it's never about sending back people who are lazy. It's never. Yeah. There's definitely a double speak there in terms of what is said and what the results of the actions are of this administration.
Yeah.
That kind of reveal, in my opinion, the racist position.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, so I don't know which direction I want to go in first.
North.
I was thinking left, but all right. All right. Onward north. So what was your first experience? I know I know you mentioned a little bit before we started. You
mm-hmm.
didn't want to go into
my very first experience.
What was your first experience with racism in any sense?
The earliest first was probably back in 1982.
Okay.
I
was 1 year old.
You were
1 year
old?
Yeah. Damn it! You're usually the one with the with the vocabulary.
Dove's tail.
Dove's tails. Right.
Anyway, yeah. So we were, I grew up in Monrovia, Maryland, and it was 1982. My dad got a job with IBM.
Monrovia is out in the Panhandle. I actually don't know.
No,
where is it?
You drive by it every day when you go to my house.
Do I?
Yeah, it's halfway between. It's actually right same exit as Newmarket, so it's halfway between Frederick and Mount Airy.
Okay.
Yep. Anyway,
but still at the time was probably
way more
seen
rural.
as a kind of backwater.
Yeah, but that's fine. But my dad got a job at IBM, and the IBM had two sort of nicknames amongst the workers, itty bitty machines and I've been moved. So at that time, like if you worked for IBM, they believed, that they would move you to another location, to another city.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the belief was because you don't have a social network you'll work harder. It's kind of isolate you like, cults do.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's a means of social control. Anyway, so my dad got a job with them and we moved to Indiana. And there was a coworker, I guess, of his named Virgil, who was also moving to Indiana. And he was going to be working out of the Kokomo office, if I remember right. And, keep in mind, I'm 9, so these details might be a little fuzzy. But, so we met him, and oddly enough, like near Washington, Pennsylvania, if I remember right.
Okay.
And so he followed us out to Pennsylvania. I mean, out to Indiana, and just yeah. Which number one, I didn't think anything of. I thought was kind of weird.
Okay.
Because why would somebody follow you? Why would you meet somebody to follow you? But I guess my dad was probably offering to protect him because being pulled over while black is a thing, and I didn't know it because I was 9. But apparently, Indiana has a nice history of
Yeah.
being Indiana. I'll put it that way.
Right.
And but I guess later I asked whatever happened to Virgil, and he said, yeah, he quit. And the reason why he said he quit, my dad told me, was that it was because of racism. He didn't feel comfortable. Yeah, there were acts of racism in Indiana, and so he left IBM.
Huh.
So that was the very first. That was the very first thing that I remember about racism. Affecting somebody. I mean, I'd never met Virgil because he was always in the car behind me, but he was still the first person that I became aware of who was affected by this, dragon named racism.
Mm-hmm.
In my life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a good story, actually.
Yeah.
Well, so, do you feel like that event colors your, maybe that's not the best choice of word, but, influences your
Hey,
thoughts?
do I need to run on the grocery store so you can stand on some eggs?
No, please.
Okay.
I'm breaking those shells. I mean, do you feel like that event, impacts you to this day?
Probably. I mean, in the subconscious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not my Roman Empire or anything.
Sure.
I don't understand
it's not
why
something
that
you
became
think
so
about. You think about at least once a day.
Yeah, I never thought about the Roman Empire once a day.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't get that either. I do believe there are some guys who think about it with some frequency.
I mean, I could understand it when Gladiator came out.
Sure.
That was such a great movie. I guess that technically qualifies as Roman Empire.
Yeah. I'm sure there's people who think 300 was somehow...
that was Greek.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Who put the hell in Hellenistic?
Well.
The world may never know.
That's right.
Anyway, yeah.
So, I mean, but it not being your Roman Empire, is it still something you think about occasionally at all, or?
I mean, perhaps maybe.
I know
every year
you get around quite
a
bit for your job. Like, is that?
Yeah, I do. I did get around. I mean, I go to some rural areas and more urban ones.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, probably my favorite territory of all was the one that was the hardest to work in because of the distance, but that would be Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, I just loved the diversity of thought working that territory, working from Tyson's all the way out to Leesburg. Really,
that's got to be a tough territory, man.
Oh yeah, it was. I wasn't getting home till like 7.
Yeah, shit.
But I was leaving like at 5:45 and getting home at 7.
Ugh.
Give away 14 days, get paid 14 hours and get paid for 8. Yeah, fun times.
Yeah.
But that was a really fun territory because I was exposed to many, many different points of view, both rural and urban. And you learn so much in environments like that. It's people are in the end people.
Yeah.
And just because somebody's liberal, they actually have a lot of shared values with conservatives, believe it or not. But you have to have the conversation to find out. You have to be able to see things to find out. If you stay in your own enclaves and you stay safe, you're not going to grow
Right.
You're not going to be exposed to the commonality. And if you're not exposed to the commonality, you're probably not going to be open to the things you don't have necessarily in common.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be more hostile to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the thing that you think would be, I mean, I know we're only 38 minutes in, but not to, not to
35, but yeah,
whatever, not to bury the lead or anything or belabor the point, but is that what you think is the kind of the key to healing yourself of any racist inclinations?
Well, I mean, you also have to be willing to question your own thoughts. I mean, accountability is a thing. I remember having a discussion during what I had called the Baltimore riots, but the person I was talking to called it the Baltimore uprising, and it was after Freddie Gray was killed.
What's the distinction between those two to you?
Oddly enough,
yeah,
probably the media.
Yeah,
because if you go back to our previous discussions on what's the difference between a mob and a protest,
right?
The media was covering the rioters, but there were many, many, many marchers who were peaceful during that time.
Yeah.
And so those marchers kind of view it as the uprising. They use a more positive term because, protesters are actually way more positive than rioters are. So, but I was talking to him, and once again, the media had been using the word thugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to an African-American coworker of mine about it. And I was like, I was always raised to think that thugs were just criminals. I didn't think it had a racial component to it.
Okay.
And the networks I was watching was saying that it did at that time. I feel like they've sort of backed away from it then. But so I asked him about it, and he gave me a point of view that kind of it sort of was, and he thanked me for not just assuming, but actually questioning.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's it. I mean, you got to be curious about your own perspectives, because it's very easy to be self-righteous in your own thought. You got to be able to examine them, try to figure out where they came from.
Yeah.
Because I was raised in a homogenous area. So it would be very easy for me to fall into a trap and just assume. But, I that story of Virgil growing up, and, there are other things that happened that I'm still deciding whether I want to get into. But,
let me while you're deciding.
Yeah.
I will. I'll get it. I'm not gonna let
out
you.
Me.
No, I'm not. Well, I'm not gonna let you. Stand out on this branch all on your own.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So I'll give you some of my perspective and my background, as it relates to this. So I grew up in Central Maryland, which I have, at the time at least, I thought of as being somewhat diverse, or at the very least very like open and tolerant.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, I honestly can't. There were certainly, families of color, that lived in that community, still live in that community, are a core part of that community. But looking back, I honestly feel like I don't remember that many black people. So maybe it was just, I don't know, something I was kind of like ignorant of.
Mm-hmm.
Is probably the right word.
Yeah.
But kind of like pleasantly ignorant. I don't know. And so I would. I'll be honest. Like I disagree a good amount with you on the core components of racism.
Mm-hmm.
While I think you and I, regardless of what we think the cause is, I think we would like 100% agree what the solution should be. Like, for example, like you talk about racism being inherent to some degree, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm certainly open to that view, but I would say I'm skeptical of it.
Of homogeny being a cause?
No, just with it being inherent, with it being almost genetic.
Yeah, with it being evolutionary.
Yeah, yeah. I remember just like a few years ago, there was a as the BLM protests and the what's the I cannot remember the name of what's the college level course that everyone said, oh, they're being taught to hate white people in schools.
What, the 1609 Project or something like that?
No. It was oh man, we have to get blah 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 out of schools. Do you remember? You don't remember at all?
No, I forget. I mean, it's get like Black history out of schools or something like that, or
I mean, that's basically what it was, but it was like it was all centered around this concept of systemic racism that had was part of like a college level subject in American history, Black history. And I remember there being like this video, this guy with his child he had posted online, and how he was not raising his child to recognize race at all.
right.
And when you kind of give some examples in your essay of how race isn't really about color. Like it's about color in the United States.
It can be,
but it's kind of whatever society decides is how we differentiate or discriminate against certain classes of people.
and this is the thing about racism is Bosnia. Serbs and Bosnians. The Serbs were Orthodox Christian. Bosnians were Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely a religious component going on there.
Yeah.
Were they the same race?
I mean,
if you were to look at them, would they have the same skin color?
But we're also kind of looking at it with our.
But also, then there's the Rwandan genocide.
Right.
The Tutsis and the Hutus.
Yeah,
Hutus. And you take a look at their skin color; they're the same skin color, but they view themselves as separate races.
Right.
And it's interesting how religion. It's interesting how geography. It's interesting how tribalism comes into racism.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know if there is a term for a separate term, I should say, for, religious discrimination other than religious discrimination.
Right.
You don't say, I'm a religionist,
Right.
I mean, I guess for a little while during the Iraq War, Christianist was thrown around every now and then. My circle.
Which Iraq War?
The second.
The second. Okay.
But so you have all these different factors being thrown in.
Yeah.
And racism. I mean, if you want to talk about pure racism based on the color of the skin, I mean, yeah, then you're separating these things out. But then what are those things called at this point? What's their name? What's ethnic discrimination called other than ethnic discrimination? There has to be an ism for it. Ethnicism, religious-ism.
Well,
yeah. I mean, maybe I made the mistake of lumping it all in together. But
I don't think you did. I mean, because you do also raise the point of
But
how Italians and Germans and Dutch were all discriminated against, as and that was considered racism, even though, quite honestly, I couldn't identify a German American, certainly not one.
I mean, Irish Americans are viewed as American at this point.
Right.
But back in the 1800s, that definitely was not so,
No, and so, and to be honest, one thing I thought about, like,
Gangs of New York goes into that.
Could you consider Gangs of New York being part of our racist history?
Oh, totally, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Gangs of New York goes into, the pinnacle of the movie happens during the draft riots, where there were people who didn't want to be drafted to fight against slavery. And a lot of the rioters, went after minorities in that. And in that movie is kind of great because it kind of shows how, everybody thinks, of Protestant and Catholic violence as being an Irish thing.
No. But
it's really kind of been imported over here. I mean, how many times did you hear growing up about WASP, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant thing,
right,
or the Protestant work ethic?
Mm-hmm.
It's things were, damn the English.
Fucking King Henry.
Fucking King Henry. Fucking King George.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of the problems of Europe we imported. And
yeah. But to me, honestly, and this is kind of where I think would be the core of my disagreement with you about what the fundamentals of racism are.
Yeah.
And to me, it's all just systems of control. Racism is only ever systemic. Like the people who say it's not there's no systemic racism, or
there totally is.
But to me, it's only systemic.
And the safeguards against that were DEI and quotas, and that's being taken down.
Yeah, but we can talk about any differing views there in a second if you want. But like, to me, the racists are also victims, not to the same extent, not in the same way as the real victims of racism, but the racists potentially are like Malcolm or American History X came out at a kind of like critical point for me.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that movie really
I don't think I saw that.
No.
But my 8th grade teacher did take our class to see the movie Cry Freedom, which is the Stephen Biko story about a civil rights leader in South Africa, who wound up dying in South Africans' police hands, custody.
Mm-hmm.
And how his relationship with a South African journalist, much like Daryl Davis, if you will, the journalist had a pretty racist position at one point. And so Stephen Biko invited him out to his house and spend a week with him just to see how everybody lives outside of his cushy white apartheid era house.
Yeah.
And he won him over.
Yeah.
And so it's a story about that. That was actually a pretty good movie. I lent it to somebody and I haven't got it.
What was the
back.
name of it again?
Cry Freedom.
Cry Freedom.
Yep.
All right, you and I are gonna each watch each other's.
Yeah,
movies.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, hell, we watched Till the End of the World.
Until the End of the World.
The epic that is Until the End of the World. Which, by the way, Vil Vendors, if you're out there,
Vim
Vendors. I'm sorry, I apologize. Please come on the show. We have so many questions
from that movie. Yeah.
And so,
yes, the 5-hour-long director's cut is definitely better.
Yes, and honestly, incredibly prescient. Like that movie was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But
There's another movie I was thinking of having you watch in the same vein, by the way,
yeah,
since we're totally off on a side here.
you know, we got to lighten this up, buddy.
Free Jack.
Free Jack?
Free Jack.
Is this also a
Freaking all-star cast with a terrible, terrible script.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's also set like kind of like just like Until the End of the World was like filmed in 1991 and set in 1999 and is actually more, they nail a lot of things for today.
Yeah.
But Free Jack, you know, same sort of thing, you know. It's, I don't want to dive too much into it, but
yeah, don't spoil it.
yeah. I mean, it's a wonderfully terrible movie.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I haven't watched it in decades, so I'm kind of curious to see how relevant it is now. But I mean, dude, I got to bring this up for you. Hang on a second. I got to bring this up for you.
I love you say it's wonderfully terrible as opposed to Until the End of the World, which was curiously wonderful.
Yeah, so okay, Emilio Estevez, Anthony Hopkins, Renee Russo, David Johansen, Amanda Plummer, Jonathan Banks, Mick Jagger.
What? Where did that come from?
I know. I mean, if that doesn't pique you right up there, you know, Mick
peaked.
Jagger acting.
Yeah.
I mean, in a wonderfully terrible movie.
I gotta, you know what I really want to see. I really want to see Mick Jagger and Billy Bob Thornton do a movie. I don't know why. I just think it would be fantastic.
I always wanted to see Ralph Nader on SNL singing "It's Not Easy Being Green."
Okay. Ralph Nader. Oh my god. That guy.
Green Party, but yeah. So
yeah. So
back to it.
As I read through my notes. So do you feel like you've ever been the victim of racism?
No.
No?
No. I mean, it's yeah, I
have you ever witnessed racism like in real time?
Or witnessed
I mean,
racism.
I know you mentioned you said it was Vim. Yeah.
Vim.
Vim.
Yeah, WIM. Yeah, Vim.
No, not Vim. From your earlier story.
From my earlier story, Virgil.
Yeah. Virgil.
Yeah, Virgil.
Started with a V.
Yeah.
I nailed it. It had letters of the alphabet too.
Well, same sound, German and then America, but yeah. I did recently.
Yeah.
Probably about a year ago. And I think it was a case of where, once again, upbringing, and the guy didn't realize it was racist. So
I think you may have told me about this once.
Yeah. So basically I saw a white dude refer to an African American as boy.
Ooh.
And in the Old South, that is definitely, you don't freaking do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think he realized the weight of what he was saying. So, but that's just it. I mean, it's, if you don't realize the weight of what you're saying, I mean, nobody remembers the punches they throw. They always remember the punches they take. So if you don't know the weight that you're saying, you don't necessarily know that you're really messing up.
Were these two people that knew each other well?
They worked together. Yeah.
Okay.
And the situation kind of went down and I didn't know what to do. I probably should have said something. Say, hey, just so you know, that's kind of an Old South insult. You might not realize that. So if you're sensing hostility from him, that's probably the reason why. I'm not saying that you're a racist. I'm not saying that you intended to hurt him that way. But that's what he's hearing. Just so you know.
Sure.
I probably should have said that. But, you know, here I am, an external vendor, and I didn't really know what to do or say. But Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably should have stood up for him and let him know that at least somebody knew it was wrong. But
It's yeah, I honestly don't know what the right thing would have been
the companies
to
would have
do.
said you were right to shut up, because that's what companies do.
Right. Right.
As a human being, I probably should have had more courage. But yeah.
Yeah. I get that. I get that it's hard in that situation though.
Yeah. I mean, these situations, when they come up, they're rarely expected. So
Right.
you're not thinking about, what am I going to do in this situation?
Yeah.
It's like, nowhere. It's definitely not your Roman Empire.
No.
Especially for white guys like us who don't have to think about this every day.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't necessarily trained for it. I'll put it that way.
Fair enough. And I totally get that. And unlike other forms of heroism, right?
Mhm.
It's not like it's a burning building where you can stand on the curb and say, "Hey, that house is burning.
Yeah.
Somebody should do something about it. Maybe I
Yeah.
should do something about it." It's like you have time, at least maybe a few seconds, but it's difficult to react to that in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I do feel like I have been, and I'm gonna use the word victim like liberally.
Very lightly, like
Yeah.
a souffle lightly.
Yeah. So I used to live in Catonsville.
Mhm.
Catonsville is has a strong African American community.
Yeah.
Black community, and I just remember being at the grocery store, and I honestly don't even remember what the slight was, but it was enough. I was like, okay, because like everyone else there was being treated politely, nicely, kindly, but then for some reason I was not, and like it was.
Were you trying to act like Vanilla Ice?
I was wearing parachute pants. Is that it?
That might have been it.
No, I wasn't wearing parachute pants. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm normally a pretty chill guy. I just, I'm minding my own business, just doing my shopping. But it just felt like I was discriminating. And honestly, like I kind of like when I
like you didn't belong there or something, or
yeah, essentially, yeah. And I walked away from the situation kind of like laughing about it, because I'm privileged enough to laugh about that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of, and that's almost why I feel like it just feels like a system of control. It feels like this person had the smallest amount of power, as an employee, and I just got to be the unfortunate target.
A lot of times it's not about who you are, it's about what you represent.
Right.
And,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And that, but that's also, I don't know, that's also kind of why I feel a certain amount of compassion for the people who are taught to feel this way.
Yeah.
Because they first of all, like as we've discussed, it's almost impossible for them to identify the way they are as or whatever they're doing as being racist in the moment. Right?
Yeah.
And to catch them in real time, catch themselves even in real time. I mean, catching others is one thing, but like catching yourself, that takes a certain amount of like retrospection, inspection, self-awareness, whatever, that quite honestly a lot of people just don't have. Especially not until they get much older. I mean, this was a question I thought about as we were talking about earlier. Like, is tackling this issue something you can only do over time? Like, is this particular thing something you have to kind of
I can't imagine anything
grow out of?
Yeah, I think it would have to be. But it has to take effort. It's not going to happen normally on its own.
Right.
And you are human. So you're going to be messing up along the way. I mean, it's as much as I guard against it. I mean, I can't rule out me messing up because I'm human.
Yeah.
But I can promise I'll try to be a better person every day.
Yeah.
You know, always a work in progress. You know, I mean, it's, I hate to use the church word, but sin happens.
Sin happens. Is that a t-shirt?
It should be a bumper sticker.
Copyright that right now.
Yeah. Sin happens.
Sin happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you another story, and this kind of like also impacted my journey, but I can't remember. I used to watch Discovery Channel TLC all the time in my later teens.
Hang on a second. I gotta throw one last line on there.
Oh.
I can promise though.
Yeah.
If corrected, I'll be receptive. You know, I'll put it that way. You know.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to feel like they're.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, accountability matters.
Accountability does matter, but it's almost like it can only happen in certain circumstances or situations.
When you're a kid, you're held accountable all the time.
Yes.
Once you leave home, accountability happens to your employer, and that's about it.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's if somebody pisses you off and you don't want them in your life because they're holding you accountable, you leave. You can leave.
Right.
You know, I mean, and to make matters worse, then you became a dad, and then you're the unaccountable person who is holding the kids accountable.
Right.
So,
and that's really why it just feels like it can only be systemic. I don't know that a child left on their own would kind of spontaneously develop racism or be racist.
Well, I mean, I totally interrupted your thoughts, so I should probably let you get back to it. But
well, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Well, yeah, go ahead and respond.
If I go with, I think the mics are picking up the sirens.
Oh shit!
Woo!
Are they coming?
Yeah, apparently. You do have yolk on your shoes, by the way. Walking on eggshells.
Walking on eggshells.
Anyway, so Donald Trump, he was born June 14th, 1946. So
the war ended what, a year earlier? It's 45?
Yeah. World War II ended a year earlier.
Yeah.
The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. So he was 18. His formative years were in a very privileged household during the era of segregation. So when people think, segregation was so long ago, racism's
really
done.
Not.
No, you have policymakers whose formative years were during segregation in privileged households.
Well, and quite honestly,
it's still here.
Yeah. There are still very much like racist policies that are especially, we'll say, insidious, because there are places like, New York and, even in Maryland or New Jersey, places we would consider like very liberal and progressive minded and, tolerant, but quite honestly, some of them, most racist people I've seen are in those communities.
Yeah.
I
think there are different types of racism.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'm going to stand a little bit. My legs are cramping up after tennis.
Yeah.
And we're an hour into this already, so.
Also, here, let me tell you my story.
Yes. All this works. Just a little short.
We're having a pretty heated conversation, or a heated topic about conversation about a heated topic, and now you've just stood up.
I've now stood up.
I don't know. Should I prepare myself?
Yeah, but I also had to pull up my shorts because they were dropping down. So it's not exactly that hospital of a moment. Maybe a little bit
All
more
right,
embarrassing, but yeah.
whatever. So, I used to watch Discovery and TLC all the time, and I remember there was this show once, about where they talked about like the scientific origins or aspects of racism, and one thing they talked about this study. I really wish I could remember this perfectly, but there was this study where they would have people go into almost like a doctor's room, doctor's office, and they would like sit and wait as you do, at a doctor's office in this like closed room, windowless room often, and they would like connect them up to heart rate monitor and just tell them to leave it on until the doctor came in. And so they had, you know some people would have a doctor come in that was of the same race, and some people would have the doctor come in of a different race, and they found through this study, um not sure how scientifically accurate this is, but like found through this study that people's heart rate would kind of just naturally increase when a person of the opposite race would enter the room.
So maybe it is evolutionary.
Yeah, I'm willing to give you some ammunition. I'm putting up my shields. So it was something I became kind of like very conscious of, when I started working. I worked at the mall at a watch kiosk, for like 18 months, a year and a half.
Did your sales pitch begin with "Psst, buddy"?
No,
Oh,
thank
okay.
God. Over here. You got time? I got time. So, so I don't know. It's just something I became like very aware of. Maybe it was totally like psychosomatic or something that I just because I had seen that experiment or whatever discussed on television, I like suddenly became. But it did kind of like help me to uh, self-regulate, so to speak, and
Oh
try to
yeah.
just be more aware. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you that it's something that you have to kind of enforce on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and I know there are certain people who are like, you telling me to enforce this on myself makes me not want to do it. But I'm sorry, this is the only way. Like it's something you have to do.
If you're not trying to make yourself a better person, you're probably becoming a worse person. I mean, it's
At best, you're stagnating.
and and it isn't about being hard on yourself either. I
Right.
mean, you can love yourself while you do it. Give yourself the grace. Yeah, I messed up. I'll be better next time.
Right.
Um,
Take the criticism when people give it.
take the criticism. I mean, a lot of
How did your coworker react, by the way, as you told them, like, hey, like what you said was
I didn't.
possibly
That's the thing.
misinterpreted?
I didn't.
Oh, oh,
And it
oh,
wasn't my coworker. I mean, they both worked for the same company, and I was fixing their copier, so I witnessed it.
I see. I see.
So, I mean, I don't think my employer would have wanted me to
I gotcha.
intervene in that situation.
Right, right.
But as a human, I needed to intervene in that
Mm,
situation. Um, I mean, it's
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you have to be able to take that criticism sometimes,
yeah,
and at least be able to examine honestly and assume that people are speaking to you honestly about their own experiences.
yeah,
You know? Yeah.
yep, yep. Yeah, we're at an hour 10 already. Yeah, I know. How many more questions do you have?
How much time you have? No, actually, I don't. I don't really have. I don't really have any more.
Okay.
Any final thoughts? What's one thing you want people to take away from this?
I'm struggling. The pause is because I'm trying to find terminology here. I'm tempted to say that be aware that your reality might not be truth. Be aware that your reality is not necessarily somebody else's reality. And I'm not talking about, I forget what the term was in the first Trump administration about separate facts.
Alternative
facts. Yeah, I'm not talking about alternative facts.
Fucking alternative facts.
I am more talking about differing truths about life. And you have to be willing to be willing to be open to the fact that your ways might be harming somebody else without you knowing it.
Yeah.
It's about respect. You need to have a foundation of respect and empathy when dealing with other people.
Yeah.
Understand that your very presence might be viewed as a threat, like from your story. Understand that your language might be offensive, even though you might have been raised that was okay.
Mm.
You need to be mindful of how your actions impact others in terms of things you don't necessarily understand, or in terms of magnitude. I've used this metaphor many times before in this podcast. A stone in the pond. Anytime you open your mouth, anytime you move, that's a stone in the pond that's sending out ripples that affect things that you don't even think of because you're just trying to skip a stone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about the stone, but you're not necessarily thinking about the impact to everything else around it. Because you're focused on your action, you're focused on your movement, but you're not focused on the consequences. You're focused on your objectives,
right?
But not the consequences. And it's very hard to go through life doing that. But if you want to be a better person, you kind of have to be aware. So it's a message of awareness. It's a message of humility. It's a message of empathy. And that's kind of what I would want people to take away from it. Yeah.
Good message.
Yeah.
Like that.
So.
All right. I hope you don't mind. I know you usually take us out, but I'm going to take us out.
Okay. And you. All right. So what's your joke?
Wait. I'm going to get to it after. Don't rush me.
Okay.
That was from the video. What was it? The hockey video. You.
Don't push me.
Don't push me.
Don't push me.
Oh, I got it wrong. Anyway, all right. So I hope everyone has enjoyed this conversation, or at least felt like they got something out of it. Please comment.
Making Julius squirm.
Please comment. Subscribe. Let us know if you've successfully had this conversation with anybody in your life. Let us know if you have any tips for how to have this conversation. Let us know if you've never had this conversation. But regardless of what you do, definitely go to our website, theascendantproject.com. Please engage with us there. Am I missing anything?
Like, subscribe, email.
Like,
comments.
subscribe, email. Definitely.
We are found at
theascendantproject.com.
And Spotify
and Apple Podcasts. And now
Pocket Podcasts.
Pocket Podcasts.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as my last question, you beat around this one, but you did not answer it.
I did not. Yeah, I beat around HW and W.
No. There's a much more important question.
Okay.
Astronaut or caveman?
Astronaut or caveman? Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean that's really the question of the ages, and it was a very very funny scene. An angel, but that's kind of what this is about. I have hope for the astronaut.
You have hope? hope.
But it's probably the caveman.
It's probably the caveman. Yeah. Now, I'm going to say, though, cavemen were not known for being very well nourished. So, I don't know. This debate could rage for generations.
So, what do you think?
I'm going to go caveman.
You're going caveman. So, the more primitive aspects of us are winning out over the more reasoned aspects of us.
Yeah.
But at the same point, does that really apply to a fight? Probably, yeah, I guess.
Does the astronaut have his spacesuit?
No.
No. Okay.
And he doesn't have a weapon.
Oh, well. Are they both just like naked? Or are they in some kind of leotard?
I should probably stick that scene on the end of this episode. I don't know. But yeah.
All right. That was it.
Okay. Sounds good. Everybody, you have a great weekend. Right now we're on a 2-week release schedule.
Yep.
So we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Have a good one.
Have a good one.